So what is really happening here? We have someone who dealt with content moderation at Twitter like doxing, okay? Her name is Melissa Engel, and she joins us now live from San Francisco. Told you I'd have you back.
Thanks, Chris. Happy to be here.
First, happy holy days if I don't get to speak to you before, you and the family.
Thank you.
Now, as you understood it, would these journalists qualify for content moderation on the basis of doxing?
Yeah, absolutely. Twitter had a long-standing policy against doxing. This included the sharing of personal information, documents, medical records, as well as contact information. Like you said, what we think of classically as doxing. The sharing of personal location information really only applies to Musk and a few billionaires. It's almost ridiculous to think about how this all started with the one person's Twitter account, Elon Jet, which tracked the location of his personal jet, and it led to Keith Olbermann being banned from Twitter. It's almost absurd.
But you don't believe that the journalists who were suspended were doxing him?
Absolutely not. They were referring to this account only. He's got around that. He came into a Twitter Spaces last night and spoke about this. He said, it's called ban evasion. They're posting to him. They're posting a link to it. So it's a ban evasion instead of just posting the actual account.
What do you think about what he's doing to the standards at your own place, your old place?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really scary. You had me on last week, and I predicted that there was going to be an increase in hate speech and abuse, but I never predicted that this domain, it would just become a domain of one person. The old Twitter process was incredibly deliberative. And one of the things you can see in the Twitter files, which have been released, is how agonized we were over each and every decision we were making. And now it's down to one person, which inevitably leads to something like this.
I think that you guys were confused about your principles. And I can't criticize your role in it per se because, you had different roles at different times. But I think what comes out in the files is standard was inconsistent. And it was a struggle, I'll give you that. It's a developing platform. It's completely unregulated. But I think he had a principles problem, and he points that out. If that's what he wants the Twitter files to be, yeah, Twitter was a messy place. But I don't know how he thinks it's any better now. Do you believe he has a recipe for success?
I don't, and I'm happy to own up to all the mistakes we made. It's a difficult process. We definitely made lots and lots of mistakes, but he definitely is not headed in the right direction. He's not regulating extremism. In fact, if he's so concerned about public safety and doxing, many of the accounts he's let back on when he purchased were banned because they doxed in the first place.
Right. Now,
that's what they were banned for.
Some of the righty fringe are coming up and saying, stop going after Twitter. At least he told you right away that you were suspended. I was blacklisted, and no one ever even told me. Were any of these guys, all these conservative fringe guys who really kind of blow up on the internet and sites like Twitter, were they ever blacklisted?
Yeah, there's an interesting thing which went on at Twitter where we tried to mitigate some of the harmful effects of free speech by not allowing people who had violated our terms of service. We did ban them from showing up to Twitter at large, although they could still be seen by their followers.
Right. So they call that shadow banning. And you said it had a slippery slope in terms of what the standard was. It was part of the struggle. But my beef with you guys was, you also used those guys. When you would find provocative content that was what we now call clickbait, very often they would be ad adjacent. That's why I never got the beef from people on the right fringe. I mean, they seem to explode on social media.
Yeah, it's right. It is a true amplifies extremism. It amplifies outrage. That's one of the things it does. And a study in 2021 proved just that, demonstrated that it was amplifying right-wing voices because they were oftentimes the most extreme. I agree with you that it was a problem that we never successfully solved, but many sites have not.
Why do you believe he's letting fringe conservatives back on at the same time he's going after journalists? Is it as obvious as it seems that he's playing to his side to kind of balance out that he thought you guys were playing to the other side before?
Yeah, I definitely feel it's an attempt to drive engagement on the site.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.